Okay, so my next set of books is going to be my line books. And my first one is going to be A Giraffe and a Half by Shel Silverstein. Clearly, I have an affinity love for Shel Silverstein. So this one is very cute. And so if you've ever read the book, The Little Lady Who Swallowed the Cat, and she swallowed the cat to chase the bat, you know what I'm talking about. It's like a sequence book. Literary element. So, so basically, if he put on a hat and lived inside a rat, and inside lived a rat, he would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat. Rhyming words. This is not the very beginning, by the way. And if you dressed him in a suit and he looked very cute, he would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat looking cute in a suit. If you glued a rose to the tip of his nose, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose. It's kind of funny. Skipped a page. If you put on a shoe and then stepped in some glue, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on a shoe. If you gave him a flute and he played tootie-toot, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue in his shoe playing a toot on a flute. And so it just keeps going and going and going. And the very last of the sequence says, I think it's fun. Yes. If he fell in a hole that was dug by a mole, you would have a giraffe and a half with a rat in his hat looking cute in a suit with a rose on his nose and a bee on his knee and some glue on his shoe playing toot on a flute with a cherry in his hair and a snake eating cake and a skunk in a trunk and a dragon in a wagon and a spike in his bike and a whale on his tail and a hole with a mole. But if you brought him a pole to climb out of the hole and the whale left his tail and went off for the mail, and he gave the spike bike to a scout on a hike, and he left the fat dragon because his wagon was sagging. And he gave his chair to a tired old bear, and he traded the flute to a bird with some fruit. Ooh. And he told that old snake to go jump in the lake, and a man who bought a trunk with the skunk. And he gave the rose to the girl he chose, while the bee on his knee flew away with the flea. And he put on the shoe with the glue on you, and that silly old rat ran away with his hat. And he put his suit in the laundry chute, and he shrank another half. You would have a giraffe. And so I think the lines in this book are really important, because if I was just reading this book to you, it wouldn't be as funny. Because you get to see him playing a toot on a flute with a rat in his hat and a suit looking cute with glue on his shoes. And so it practices that whole repetition thing. And there is rhyming words. So a cute little, I know we don't have to list activities, but I feel like it really helps drive home my literary point sometimes. If you could have them do an assignment where they pick an animal and like what 5 things happen to this animal and you have to make it rhyme. I think that'd be kind of cute. But that's why lines are so important in this book. And there are some irregular lines, like the spots on the giraffes are an exact perfect circle, and a circle little curlicue, or his tail has a curlicue in it. So it's not perfect. But I really like it. But it does show us that movement, and I thought the lines were very excellent. Some of these books that have lines as well, which, I mean, basically all of them do, some of them just aren't as fun. And for some reason, because these lines aren't exactly perfect, and, like, you couldn't see it unless you're holding it, but, like, some of the lines go a little bit outside, like the character of the giraffe. I think that makes it fun. And I think that really helps just drive home, like, the silliness of this book. So I really liked this one. And then I went to a solid one. And then this one could be shape or line. And I chose it to be line because it has a lot of like crazy lines in it. Which for me represent like a lot of action and like a lot of stuff happening. So this book is When a Line Bends, a Shape Begins by Rhonda Galler Green and illustrated by James Caxman. So this book uses a bunch of lines, but it's how these lines are going to make shapes. But see, like, the lines are kind of crazy, like the tree trunks are crazy. And what's over here? I'm trying to find the other page that was off. The mailman is all sorts of crazy. And so it just kind of makes the book almost more exciting because look, it's like, oh my gosh, look at his legs. And I really like that about it. So it talks about each. Okay, so I might just easier to show you. So on each of these shapes, like these are triangles. So the first triangle says a triangle is three sides, three corners, two. The white sail of a boat, a tent just for you. And then the tree says a jack-o'-lantern's eyes, a wicked witch's hat, the beak of a black crow, the pricked ears of a cat. And then it has a triangle like the instrument, and it says an instrument to ring the pyramids of old, a lunch of jam and bread and napkins in a fold. And so what is the word I'm looking for? So not like a thesaurus, not like synonyms. I can't remember. Homophones maybe is what I'm thinking of. But it shows that, like, basically a diamond may work on a baseball field, but it also is a road sign. And so, having them go through this book and look at all the different ways that we can use all these different shapes, and I can come up with, like, 2 shapes of how you can build things. But all the wacky lines in this book, even though they're shapes, all the lines that are used to make these shapes, all sorts of wacky and just, like, quite great. So I really liked that about it, which is why I chose to include it in lines and not shapes, because I felt like my other shape books, with Harold the Purple Crown drawing his own adventure, and Madeline, I feel like those focus a little more on shapes, whereas this is shapes, it's also the lines that form the shape and the different way hearts are used. Oh, that's what like people's hearts, but the way different ways, like things like the triangles are used and that kind of stuff. And I think it just shows that everything has multiple uses. And so maybe even having them like look up the words in the thesaurus and having them use those words in a sentence to describe the shape, or something like that. And I think the shapes are also really important in helping us understand the setting. So like this one, you can tell it's happening in the desert and it's a shooting star. And there are lots of shooting stars in the desert. And this one with hearts is happening over a sunset. Because you can see the rays of the sun. Where's the town? This one happens in town because there are roads. So you can also ask questions like, what is the setting? Describe the setting to me. That kind of thing. So that also really plays into those literary elements. I don't believe there are some rhyming words, but they're not super consistent, so I'm not going to use that. Like I said, there's some, but not like the Cat in the Hat or even like a giraffe and a half. Like, it doesn't really rhyme like that. So that is what I have for When a Line Bends and a Shape Begins, and these were my line books.